So what the heck is an agile manager? I mean, we hear this all the time. Agile manager. Sometimes I have a hard time putting these things together. Is this like a manager that can bend backwards? We'll find out here. Hold on, let me start that over. So, guys, what the heck is an agile manager? I keep reading this all over the place. Is this like a manager that bends over backwards for you? Is this, a manager that buys you a car in order to come to work? I mean, I don't know.
I guess I would start by saying, a manager in an agile environment, and I would venture to say a leader in most environments actually, but particularly important in an agile environment is setting goals, and clearly communicating what those goals are. I mean, when people are micromanaged, they don't need to know the big why. They're just told, do this task, do this task, do this task. But in an agile space, we're expecting teams of people to make decisions. And so they need to know where we're aiming at, both in the long-term sense, like a Scrum product goal, for example, and in the short-term sense, like a sprint goal. Um, so that allows teams to understand what the purpose of what they're doing. It helps them orient themselves day by day, minute by minute with what they're working on. And not just setting what the goal is, but giving some regular and frequent feedback. I mean, I know that I've had lots of yearly feedback cycles with managers in the past, and what they're giving me feedback on is completely irrelevant. I think rapid feedback and saying, yes, we're on track to meeting these goals, or no, we're not, we're veering off course pretty frequently is pretty important for an agile manager.
Yeah, I totally agree.
That's pretty good. Being able to have that alignment, I think, is a huge foundation for us to be able to effectively manage an agile environment. I think the other thing that comes to mind when you speak of agile management or agile managers are managers who are able to foster the collaboration needed that goes towards those goals and the alignment that has been presented by the manager. If you don't free up your team to essentially collaborate and get that work done, you're doing yourself a disservice. You may actually not be managing. To actually have control over that is counterproductive. Instead, allow the teams to collaborate and figure out how to achieve those goals together. One of the key aspects that I've seen with managers who have sorted this out, and I like how Jason said it feels more like leadership. Perhaps that word begins to shift towards leadership as they allow teams to collaborate and get better at their craft, get better at what they do. In fact, not just what they currently do, but things they have yet to learn to do. So that's this whole collaboration and continuous improvement cycle that I think really effective teams can really demonstrate a tremendous amount of progress towards these goals. And managers are key to give space and room and resources necessary for those teams to be able to both collaborate and continuously improve.
Yeah, completely. And I want to pile on this one with open communication and transparency. So transparency you see in the Scrum Guide. It's part of the theory of it, and we all have the facts so that we can make good decisions based on facts. Good managers in the Agile space really understand the importance of this, and they're focusing on creating good communication and raising transparency and not letting people be information hoarders. We don't need heroes on a good Agile team, but they support this. They support empirical decision making. But they're also creating an environment where team members feel super comfortable sharing their ideas and thoughts and just in general being open, which, back to Scrum again, it's one of the values, openness, which helps build trust and understanding between team members and helps them be more collaborative together. And then one more thing, just to make this all work, you got to be focusing on team stability as a manager. You can't just keep swapping people in and out and in and out. Once you've built a team that's starting to become really highly effective and solving problems effectively together, you want them to stay together. You want them to grow. And I love talking about managers being like a gardener, where you don't force a rose to grow. You create an environment in which they can thrive such that you have prize-winning roses. You remove the weeds, you give it proper light, take care of it in the winter. There's a lot of care that goes into it without directly influencing the rose itself. So team stability, really important if you want to see ROI on this stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I've been in places where the teams are constantly churning. You're constantly forming, storming, norming, performing. It's another thing that I would expect from a manager that is managing or leading. Well, I know we keep circling around manager and leader here, but I think it's important that an agile manager leads by example. A good manager doesn't ask their people to do something that they wouldn't do themselves. And so, what that could look like, I mean, just a lot of the things we've already talked about, communication and collaboration and goal setting, but also just like living those values of the Agile Manifesto. A lot of managers get wrapped around the axle around processes and tools, and this is the standard way we do this, or you have to enter your time here or whatever. And sometimes those are unavoidable, but the Agile Manifesto says we're going to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. And so valuing those discussions, that open communication, the team building is really important. Responding to change over following a plan. I've worked with managers before who really, they've got their Microsoft project file and this is the word of God and we shall not deviate from it. And it's like, hey, sometimes there are times we need to respond to change. We need to inspect and adapt and course correct to deliver value. So I think being able to live those values will inspire the people that they're managing to embody those values as well.
These are some good foundations for what is an agile manager. And I think there's a lot of overlap. As we were talking together, I noticed how the themes keep linking to previous themes, and that I feel that's a natural tendency. You can't pick one of these and say, "Cool, I'm going to run with this." You need to have these all working together to really have a holistic approach to what a good agile manager would be. So yeah, in summary, we take these things. An agile manager then fosters and creates a culture for these things to grow and get better. And they do so by leading by way of example. That's pretty awesome. If there's any of these topics that would be interesting for any of the viewers to expand on, I would be interested in your comments below. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit. Maybe you have some more clear perspective as to what is an agile manager. And a little hint, it has something to do with leadership. So yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.